All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Curse. I'm gonna change my first name. It's just I can't say it. Welcome to episode 3 of Curtis Candy's GOOSHTASTIC podcast. I spit it out. Got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. Right off the top, though, before I forget, because I keep forgetting to mention this and I get questioned about it later. For any of you wanting to join in as these podcasts are recorded, because they're recorded during live video streams, and you can take part in them in the comment section. You can ask a question as we're going, and other people see your question, like it, give it thumbs up, so it'll get more attention. So it'll get my attention when I go to the questions. You do so at our Patreon. That is patreon.com/SpazBoysComedy. Boys is spelled with an S because I never liked the boys Z thing anyway. But that's patreon.com/SpazBoysComedies. You sign up there, you'll get notifications of whenever we're going live. You can also sign up at our Crowdcast account, because Crowdcast is the service we use for the live streams. That's crowdcast.io/e/Curtis Candy. Hopefully I gave you that one right. It's Curtis Candy. Search Curtis Candy on Crowdcast. All right, we got a good lineup today. Got several things we want to talk about. I'll do as I did last time. We'll go through all the topics that we're going to be discussing up front here, and then we'll break them down one by one, but that way you guys can know what's coming up and be afraid or whatever the case may be. First, we're going to be talking about socialism. You guys know I'm not a fan of socialism, but I'd like to have more in-depth conversation about why I'm not a fan, and see if we can keep, typically whenever there is a conversation about socialism, be it social media or pretty much anywhere, it's such a lightning rod topic that many of the conversations degenerate into just name calling, and other unpleasantries, and you never really get anywhere. Let's see if we can overcome that. Can we? Probably not. These streams that we do to record the podcast also go up at our YouTube channel, which is Spaz Boys Comedy. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of comments in there completely ignoring the fact that we wanted to keep everything as a reasonable, rational conversation, and there will be screeches of Bernie's the man, feel burn, that type of thing, and then a lot of vulgarities, probably from both sides, but we'll give it a shot. We're going to talk about socialism. Then we're going to talk about cosmic brownies. Don't know what cosmic brownies are? You will soon. And you're going to need to know. We're also going to talk about, it relates back somewhat to socialism, but we're going to talk specifically about paid leave for all. Then we're going to be discussing some guilty pleasures. Yeah, that's right. Well, you guys are like, but if I do my guilty pleasure, I'll have to go to a different website away from your stream. I understand. And then finally, we're going to be discussing Kobe Bryant and the tragedy that took place earlier this week. Okay, let's dive right in. Again, those of you here with me watching the stream, by all means, if you have a question to ask, just click your little button there, or click, or you can click on the website, whichever, and ask your question. If you see a question posed that you really enjoy, give it a thumbs up to make sure that I see it. I will be going to the questions during the live stream. I will also be referring to our live stream comments right over here to my right. Socialism, not a fan. The reason, and I guess in a nutshell, it's not hard to describe why. I mean, it's much more nuanced than all this, of course, but I am not in the camp that believes it's ever a good idea to give your money to the government with the express purpose of allowing the government to then decide how to disperse it back. I don't think that is a situation that has worked out well pretty much at any time, whether here in America or elsewhere. And I don't think there is any chance that it will work out well in the future. Any place, anytime, any place where we can make our own decisions with our own money, I think we're much better off. Now, that's not to say that government can't be involved in those decisions. It's to say that I don't like the idea of government taking the money and then redispersing it. And what I mean by involved is, well, okay, let's talk healthcare, because healthcare, Medicare for all, is a hot topic among the socialist candidates, or the people that lean towards a more socialist form of government. First of all, as I've said in the past, the concept, the notion that private healthcare in America doesn't work at all at any level is patently ridiculous. I'm living proof of that. I have private healthcare and I absolutely love it. I've had it for decades and I've loved every minute of it. So, and the immediate response to that generally is, well, just because you're one of the lucky ones doesn't, what about the rest of us? Well, my point is, when you talk about Medicare for all, all of the plans that are complete Medicare for all, that are projected by the Democratic candidates, immediately wipe out all private health insurance. And I don't understand that even as a concept. If you have 100 to 150 million Americans who have private health care and like their private health care, why would you want to take that away? In other words, you would think if you're trying to tackle a problem, any problem, and you can say, okay, I can take this third of the entirety of the nation, and I don't even have to worry about them in the equation because they already like what they have. Now, I understand that the reason they need to take away private health care is because they need everybody to pay in for this monstrous undertaking, which would be Medicare for all. I don't believe for a second that it will come in, the price tag will come in anywhere as near what anyone, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, any of them have projected, for one reason. As near as I can tell in my reading of their proposals, and I'll grant you I didn't go word for word for word, I tried to get the highlights as best I could. So if I'm wrong, correct me. I didn't see where they even addressed two vitally important parts, one of which is the number of hospital administrators nationwide who have said, and it's a substantial number, who have said that if their services, if hospital services, if medical services are paid for at the Medicare rate for everyone, they would go bankrupt. They would be out of business. They would be done. They can't do it. It's the private insurance rates, the way that they pay, that keep them afloat, because the Medicare rates are so reduced they wouldn't be able to do business. Now, if that is the case, or that's even close to being the case, we have to factor in that there's going to have to be a rise in what Medicare pays. Now, the next point of concern I have, well, one of many, is when everybody is covered by health insurance, the number of people seeing the doctor and going to the hospital is going to increase exponentially. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. As I've said, we all know, all of us in the working world, we all know those employees that, because so many jobs require a doctor's note for you to miss time, we already know within our workplace the guy or girl that's going to be like, oh yeah, I now it's going to the doctor's a piece of cake like this. Let's see, I'm going to be off next Monday. I'll take off the following Wednesday. It happens. It's just human nature. It goes on. Also, there's plenty of hypochondriacs out there who think that every little issue, every little sniffle is a cause for concern and they're about to die. And I can honestly say, if you can look around your circle of friends and family in entirety and you don't know anyone that's a bit of a hypochondriac, it's because you're the hypochondriac then, because if you have anything of a circle whatsoever, that person is in there. But what I'm saying is, if healthcare is available to all at no cost to go, the number of patients is going to rise exponentially, and none of these plans take that into account. We're already facing a shortage of nurses in the medical field that's going to obviously exacerbate that. And the problem, and above anything else, what federal programs have you ever witnessed that cost exactly what was projected with no without having to throw a few hundred extra million into there as they go on? I can't think of any. I can't think of any that have come in at cost because the politicians, obviously, it's to their advantage. They got it when they're pitching this. They've got to keep the price tag as low as possible. They're going to cut every corner they can just to make it seem more palatable to the voters, so they can get support for it. Then, when it actually goes into effect, when you have initiated this Medicare for all, you're not going to take it away from people. So when these same politicians come back and say, "Ooh, you know what? Damn, this cost a little bit more than we thought it was gonna." Now, here's the problem: to get this off the ground, we have taxed the rich again. We have taxed their income over certain levels at an exorbitant rate, which is how, to my knowledge, everybody who is promoting Medicare for all uses these taxes on the rich as a means to paying for it, a part of the means to paying for it. It won't even come close to paying for all of it. But given that we've already taxed the rich some more, who do you think gets to pick up the tab for whatever the cost overruns are? It's not hard to figure out. The poor don't have the money to give, and the rich have just been hit with the tax and are, you would assume, pretty much maxed out on it. So the everyday middle class working Joe gets to pick up the tab again. For some people, and this is the problem with it, seemingly all the proposed methods of creating affordable healthcare, or in some cases, I hesitate to say free because it sure as hell ain't free, but medical care where you pay nothing when you go see the doctor or go to the hospital. The problem is all of them are going to affect someone adversely. So if you put in Medicare for all, for some people, that might seem like a great thing. It's like, well, what I pay in taxes, it doesn't equal what, I'm saving from having to get my own insurance or this, that, or the other. There's also going to be a lot of people, I would be included in this group, that are going to pay way more in taxes than their private insurance was costing them. So as always, somebody comes out a loser. But what you're doing is, with every one of these programs, you're allowing the government to take more of your money and redisperse it. I am not a fan of that in any way, shape, or form. I think it inhibits exceptionalism. I think all these programs that are being bandied about, this forgiveness of all student loan, which is absolutely ludicrous to me, free college for all, Medicare for all, these come with such a tremendous price tag. Your taxes are going to rise at a rate that I don't think the average person is comprehending, because I don't think you're being told the truth. Again, everything, when it's proposed, everything is cut to the bone. This, let's come out with the number that seems the least imposing and then let the pieces fall where they may. Well, when those pieces start to fall, you're going to find out that you have a lot less money to work with each week. So even if it's like, okay, now I've got better coverage than I used to have. I have better medical coverage than I used to have. And that's great. But did enough come out of your paycheck that you can't afford to eat? This is what I'm saying. It doesn't always equal out for everybody. And once again, it's still, and now let me take this a step further. I don't think that government should wash their hands to anything to do with healthcare. I think the private healthcare system can work much more effectively if government were to get involved with the pharmaceutical companies and put a rein on them. I mean, make them come up with cold, hard numbers as to, with each and every product that they provide, what their overall profit margin is, including the research, development, and everything. There's a lot of money to be found in there. I also think that something needs to be done about superfluous lawsuits, silly lawsuits in this nation. They cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and I think that also is a big factor in the price of healthcare being as high as it is. Malpractice insurances are just outrageous, and it's simply because everybody's looking to make a quick buck. There are a lot of things we can do, the government can do on our behalf, to rein in the cost of healthcare, and then take it a step further and say, okay, for those who, we've already got a decent system. As you guys know, my daughter is multiply disabled, so she receives, I always get the two terms mixed up. So she receives Medicaid, because of her disabilities. There is a really decent system in place. My wife and I have been working with and been families with, brought into our homes disabled people for years. No system is perfect, but it's pretty decent. So we are taking care of those who can't take care of themselves. Now there are people that are underemployed. I don't think much of America would have a problem with paying some extra taxes to make sure that there's a system to allow those who are underemployed, who are working, who are trying to get ahead, but just can't make ends meet, can't get that health insurance. I don't think there's an awful lot of people who would balk at having some of their tax dollars go towards helping these people out. But beyond that, now here's where I come, and you guys, I know what everyone's saying right now is I'm just hammering on the left, and to this point, it's true. It's the far left ideas. That's what I've been going after. Now let's go to the right. The tax breaks given to corporations have gotten completely out of hand. They're completely unreasonable. They're completely over the top. I am not a disbeliever in the concept of trickle-down economics, but we've piled way, way too much frosting on the top of that cake. You know, it's one thing to give some companies a break here or there in the hopes that they'll take that money, reinvest it into their business, reinvest it into hiring more employees. And then there is a point where you just pile on all kinds of tax breaks and you give them all kinds of loopholes, and you have companies like Amazon paying zero in taxes. That's a problem. So I would say let's roll back a lot of those breaks that these corporations are being given and saying, hey, you know what? You can have them. You can still have those breaks. But to do it, you have to provide all your employees with a certain level of health care. Break it into 3 different groups. I've said this before. You can have your bronze, silver, and gold package. At the gold package, you're gonna get most of your tax breaks, if not all your tax breaks back, because you're providing something for your employees that affects the greater good for all. You got a silver package, you got a bronze package. Give your employees some sort of health care. Those that are still don't have what would be deemed as adequate enough, I have no problem with a government exchange where you can go in and buy your own insurance, where you can buy addendums to the insurance you have. But the bottom line is, why start out with these 100 to 150 million people who are happy with their health insurance and knock them off at first? It makes zero sense. Just from a problem-solving perspective, it doesn't make any sense to include people who are not experiencing the issue into the solution for those who are having an issue. Let's go over to, I've got more to say on that. Let's go over to see what some of the comments are. Let's see. The current system, there is actually, this is the Milkolator says, there is actually a decent amount of evidence proving that we have excessive testing, which leads to more harm than good. That's entirely possible. The current system also incentivizes over-medicating and unnecessary surgeries. The government should play a secondary role in healthcare and not a primary one. That last sentence, I could not agree with more. You said it more. I just went through all, well, God damn it. Now, I just went through all that, and you said that more eloquently in one sentence than I did in a 10-minute diatribe. Yes, exactly. That's exactly how I feel. The government should play a secondary role in healthcare, not a primary one. As far as excessive testing and unnecessary surgeries, I don't doubt that goes on. I can't comment intelligently on it because I really just don't know. It's something interesting to look into. It's something that I certainly don't find hard to believe. I just can't speak on it myself. But I like the way you put that. Exactly. I think the government should play a secondary role. And that's where the government, to me, the government is not the government should help us succeed. The government should not want to take over our lives. By helping us succeed, I mean, okay, go in there and find out why the cost of pharmaceuticals are so outrageous in America, and let's take steps to correct it. But we have a bunch of politicians that are terrified of the pharmaceutical companies. Who knows, if this were a bigger podcast, if I were getting out to more people, maybe this would be the last one if the pharmaceuticals heard what this conversation was about. Listen, I'm 58. I've had a good run. If the pharmaceutical companies want to come get me, come on, but you better be good at it because I'll take you with me, assholes. Lud says, many things need to be cut down a lot. Things like student loans especially, but getting rid of them entirely would do far more harm than good. Again, I agree. Because this is, unfortunately, as a society where we are right now, where everything has to become an extreme. Okay, so let's talk about this. The cost of college has gotten out of hand, and quite in some situations it has. So rather than try and fix it, it's like, well, let's tear it all down and just make it all free. Well, that's not feasible either. That's certainly not fair to people, and there's still plenty of them who don't want to go to college, who are going to go to trade school, or are going to work grunt work for their whole life. I was a truck driver. I don't know if that counts as grunt work. I was happy without a college. I didn't get my degree. I went for journalism. I didn't finish, so I never had a college degree. I was perfectly happy and made a decent living my whole life. So now you're saying, well, even the people that don't go to college, they should pay for the people that do. And I don't buy that. That's bullshit. People should be responsible for their own education. However, that's not to say that their own education can't be more economical. The thing of it is, there are economical ways in most situations to go to college right now. My son Braxton is experiencing that. For these people complaining about their student debt, the first thing I would want to know, and I mean this genuinely, when you took out those loans, did you go through and make a good shopping decision? Did you go around? Did you compare the different places you could get that same degree? Did you look at all avenues? It's depending on what your degree is in. Is it something that you could have gotten at a community college? Are there online classes you could have taken that would have counted towards your degree? Could you have gotten the entire degree online? Did you actually shop through, or did you go to a campus and go, oh, I love this place. I can get loans to come here. That's fine that you love that place. But if you didn't shop, if you took a price tag that was on the high end, particularly for whatever your degree may line you up with for potential work, you made a stupid call. That was a bad decision. It was a bad buying decision. It's no different than people that get in over their head for buying a car that is out of their means. The payments are too high. Buying a house that is beyond their means. It's not any different. The one difference is that I hear people complaining about is that it can't be discharged in a bankruptcy. And that sucks, but that's understandable too, because if you allowed student debt to be discharged in a bankruptcy, you don't think that would become the plan for a lot of people who want that degree from that prestigious school? Hey, I'll get all these loans and then I'll get out. I'll file bankruptcy. 7 years later, it's off my credit report. Oh, I wouldn't have had it paid off in 7 years, so it's worth it. That's exactly what would happen. So there is a really good, solid reason why it's not dischargeable in a bankruptcy. The thing of it is, you still signed on for that loan. If you didn't do any type of diligence, any type of shopping around for getting that degree, you're to blame for that debt. Let's see. Unfortunately, this is the Milkulator again. Unfortunately, the government will never touch the pharma companies because of big pharma donations. I agree with that. I completely agree with that. The real question is why government lobbying exists. The taxpayers are basically subsidizing Amazon by paying for welfare programs for Amazon employees. Yeah, I don't disagree with a lot of that. The lobbying is a touchy one for me. I think groups need to be able to lobby on behalf of the people that support those groups. I think it's important that, because as individuals, it's very difficult to make our voice heard at any substantial level. But you're right. I mean, the lobbying gets completely out of control when you have lobbying groups with so much input, so much pull with important politicians, and so much money to give to these politicians and their campaigns, that it invites all sorts of unfairness. So that I completely agree with. Richard Shaw says, hi, well, the pharma industry is crazy. We have it free here. It's like, I believe, Richard, you're in England, right? In the UK? It's like $600 per semester here, but that doesn't include dorms or cost of living. Colleges, I mean. Okay. The colleges are free. I had a conversation, I think I'd mentioned this before, with a British woman in line at the airport, as a matter of fact, and we were talking about that. And isn't there something in place? Oh, German. I'm sorry. It wasn't UK. It was Germany. This woman was from England, and the way she described it to me there was the government. She can go get her education, and the government basically pays for it. However, once she gets out and gets a job, once she starts earning over a certain amount, then she starts paying back. That money is taken back to repay their education. And she was talking to me about the pluses and minuses of it. She said it's like anything else, has its good points and its bad, and some people have still learned to game the system. But the when you're we have very affordable, most states have very affordable options for going to college between community colleges and different programs that are put in place. I'm in New York. In New York here, we have the Excelsior program. It's helped an awful lot of people. And most states have that or are following suit with it. I think a lot of these things, obviously not necessarily Medicare for all, but a lot of these things are handled better when it is on a state-by-state basis, because not only each state, but each individual county, each individual region within a state has entirely different needs and wants. You're going to have entirely different numbers of people that even want to go to college. I know this is true here in New York, depending on what part of the state you're from. So I think a lot of these things are better handled at a state level with some sort of federal guidance. I mean, there has to be that. It's similar to minimum wage. I live in upstate New York. In the county I live in, we're in one of the most depressed areas in the nation as far as economically. If you take a 3.5-hour trip down south through Westchester County and into New York City, you're in some of the highest rent districts in the world. So obviously, whatever works as a minimum wage there is not going to work here. What you need to just barely survive down there would put small businesses completely out of business up here, because they just could not afford to pay their staff those rates. And that's why it's so ignorant and so ridiculous when you see people online and in social media screaming and crying, well, if you can't afford to pay a living wage, then you shouldn't be in business. Well, living wage has an entirely different meaning simply sometimes by crossing a county line. You can't put a blanket on what is a living wage. But again, I digress when I start talking about the morons that perpetuate social media. So let's see. Oh, now Richard says, now this is Germany. He's from Germany. He says, yeah, we have something similar, but only if you can't pay for it yourself. It seems that again, what we're talking about with England, with you paying back for your education once you start making a certain amount of money. The Milkulator says, I'm a university student researching biochem. It's frustrating realizing that the taxpayers are partially paying for pharma companies' research and development when big pharma uses the excuse of research and development for absurd profit margins. And I agree with that. I've always said, Milkulator, I've always said that we talk about the obscene profits that big pharma is making. We just look at the price of the pill and we don't factor in the research and development. And that's true. However, that goes too far to the other extreme as well. And it just seems, I've looked, and maybe I'm just not good enough at researching these things, but I can see nowhere where pharmaceutical companies really have to come down penny by penny and explain exactly what the cost of this pill or this service or what it is. Where do they have to actually go through line by line and say, this is what we spent on research and development, and here's the dollars, here's the proof of that. This is what we charge for whatever. We charge the hospitals to stock this. This is what we charge to the end consumer to stock this. Whatever the case may be, there doesn't seem to be any type of real accountability there where we can get an idea of why our pharmaceutical prices are so high. But just as was mentioned in the comments, there's no big push for that type of oversight because, well, the pharmaceutical companies pay a lot of bills for the political campaigns, and you can buy a lot with that kind of money. See, in essence, and I know we're staying within the track of socialism, but my stance is government works best when it gives everyone equal opportunity for success. It doesn't work best when it tries to be everybody's mommy and give everyone that same level of limited success. And that's, to me, what socialism ends up being. I think it's always in our best interest to keep as much of the money as we earn in our pockets as possible. Oh, another one of my favorites when you talk about not liking socialism is the socialists will tell you, well, you already take advantage of socialism. You have a police department, a fire department. You have your Social Security. Well, first of all, police departments, fire departments, public works departments that fix the roads. The reason that those exist are because there isn't a good alternative for them in the from an individual marketplace. In other words, if we want a fire department, it has to be funded by the people in that region because there just isn't another good option. We don't have the option to individually go out and say, well, I'll buy this fireman and he'll just stay at my house, and if there's any issue, he'll put the flame. No, I mean, it's ridiculous. Some programs have to be done socially. It doesn't make you socialist. When you start having the government provide through your tax dollars and redistribution, when there is another good viable alternative, when there's a free market alternative, that's when you cross over into socialism. And it always amazes me when they bring up Social Security as a socialist program, because Social Security has been completely destroyed by the government. They fucked it all up. They screwed it up. We all pay into Social Security, and it's been on the brink now for well over a decade of being extinct because the money was so misused and mishandled by our government over the years. They've been atrocious with dealing with Social Security. If you think that social programs or socialism is a good idea, why? The last thing you should want to talk about is Social Security. It's the greatest proof there is that the government should not be trusted with major programs such as that. They've never proven where they can effectively operate them, and Social Security is the living proof of that. We got some questions coming in. Let's check these out. Now this comes from Jesse Artrip. On the healthcare topic, would you be in favor of restricting lawsuits against doctors? One of the biggest costs of healthcare is the large number of administrators to field lawsuits. It also makes them take things slower, do unnecessary tests, and hours of work to deal with simple things just protecting its lawsuits. As a matter of fact, Jesse, yes, I know you came in a little later. I talked about that earlier. I'm a big believer that a lot of the reason our healthcare costs are so high is because of this lawsuit happy society that we have. The tough thing is, it's hard to say that you can't, and I'm not sure where the happy median ground is here. I'd like to hear from you guys. Something's got to be done to curtail superfluous lawsuits. It has to be. Can you go and say, well, a doctor can't be sued? I'd like to say that every doctor is a competent professional and will always, even if something goes wrong, they had your best interest at heart, and the mistake they made was an understandable one. It's exactly why I've told you guys before. My stepdaughter, she got spinal meningitis when she was 4 weeks old. That's what led to her cerebral palsy, being in a wheelchair, and her multiple disabilities was the fact that they didn't determine that it was spinal meningitis quickly enough. Had they, she could have been saved with little to no damage. Did my wife sue them? No, because everything that transpired, every act that they took, was reasonable for what they were seeing. They just didn't come to spinal meningitis quickly enough. Apparently it can look like any one of a number of different things, and so they were doing the best they could. She had immediate attention. Doctors and nurses were working their asses off trying to figure out what was going wrong with this poor baby, and it just took too long to get there. Was my wife going to sue people who genuinely were trying to save her life because unfortunately they just didn't come up with the right answer first? No. But are there some cases where doctors can be egregiously neglectful? Yes. We came close to experiencing that with my son when he had a problem with his knee, and we had a misdiagnosis from a doctor. He diagnosed something that turned out was not even there. It wasn't even on it wasn't even on the x-ray, but he was looking at something that didn't exist. And if it weren't for an x-ray technician who caught his failure, he would have had an unnecessary surgery that would not have even addressed what turned out to be the problem, which was he had this small tumor in his knee. When we went to another doctor, he immediately knew what it was, took care of it, had him out. He was in and out of the procedure in like 3 hours, and he's never had a problem with it again. And he almost had metal screws put into his joints and everything for a problem that wasn't there. Did we sue then? No, for one thing, just because he was going to do an operation that wasn't necessary, he didn't do it. I know that's not much of an excuse, but I could see someone suing someone for something like that. So what is the answer? I mean, how do we determine what is going to be a superfluous lawsuit and what actually has merit? There's got to be something able to be put into place, because until we get a handle on these clearly superfluous lawsuits, we're never going to bring the cost of medical care into reasonable terms, because their insurances, their malpractice insurances, are ridiculous. And as was stated over here, it leads to extra testing, extra layers of tests that might not even be necessary, because doctors are terrified, understandably, of having their lives and careers ruined by lawsuit. There's got to be a happy medium in there somewhere. There's got to be a preliminary court, a preliminary board that can look at some basic facts of the case and whether or not a lawsuit could go further. Would that be a means of bringing down the cost of these lawsuits? Is there a way to do it? Could they set up state boards that are designed to look at these things? Patient brings in, this is the complaint, here are all the details. The doctor responds with, okay, this is exactly what happened, and only the ones deemed with merit could go forward. I don't know, but there has to be an answer, because as you guys say, it's costing us far, far too much money. Richard says, what exactly does American Social Security cover? Basically, Social Security is like a retirement plan. And Richard, you pay into it throughout your working life. And then when you hit it, it's still, I believe you can start it at 62, but now you get a much higher rate if you wait till 67, because obviously people's life expectancies have increased since this was first initiated. There should have been plenty of money in that with what has been taken out of paychecks to cover us for years. But over the decades, of course, our government has said, well, I've got this pet project. And you know what? Social Security, they've got an overabundance of money. They're at a surplus. Let's take a little of that for this. And then the other politician says, well, my program is really important too. Can I have a little of that Social Security? And now, we've got the boomers coming towards retirement age and everything, where you have a big group of people who were paying into it their whole life, but a lot of that money they were paying in has already been pilfered. So now we don't know how we're going to continue paying Social Security benefits. That's why it's, to me, never a good idea to let the government take your money and redistribute it. They don't do it well, and they never will. They never will. It's always better to try and keep whatever costs you have down and allow people to use their own paychecks to pay for it themselves. Nothing will ever make me believe differently. We've been on this for a long time. We can talk about this forever, and we will talk about this further. I'll take another question, then we'll move on to the next topic. This comes from Carlos Diaz. On the healthcare topic, do you think that the new trade between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, the USMCA, will go through? I heard that includes a trade of pharmaceuticals that would bring the price of those down here in the U.S. I actually, from what I've heard, and this is early on, and I admit to not being as well versed on the USMCA as I should be, pretty much everything I've heard has been positive. That's what I've heard too, Carlos. Same thing, that because of that trade, it could bring down the price of pharmaceuticals. That would be fantastic. If that is not included in the deal, they're morons for not doing it. Because that we had a system with my insurance. We had a system for a long time that we could go, and there were a lot of medicines we got here that we could get from Canada through a mail order system. If there were medicines you used every month and so on and so forth, worked out tremendously. It was fantastic. And then that system, and I still can't find out exactly why, was halted. And it was halted by governmental influence, trust me. But what I know of the USMCA so far, I haven't seen anything bad about it. And surprisingly, both my friends on the right and left who are even more well-versed and are more well-versed in this than am I, have stated that they really like the idea. So it sounds promising. We should actually cover that as a topic in and of itself in one of these streams, in one of these podcasts. And I will, I'll do my diligence. I'll do my research on it. We only have one other question lined up right now, so let's get to it quick before we move on. The businesses providing healthcare for tax breaks, how do you make sure that's what they're doing and they don't find a way to cheat the system? And that comes from Omega Project. I'm not sure how you're phrasing it. Well, I mean, as far as how do I make sure that they're actually giving the healthcare they say they are? I mean, well, that's all paperwork. That's all a paper trail. You can look into what the employers are getting for healthcare insurance. And as I said, the employer should have to present to the government, this is the healthcare plan that we provide to our employees, either for free or at low cost. That cost should be included. Any cost incurred by the employee should be included. Now, the government takes that, in my way of thinking, and it designates it. Okay, you're either the bronze tier, the silver tier, or the gold tier. Depending on what tier that health insurance is, depends on what type of breaks you get as a company. You want the good stuff. You want to get all the tax breaks. You want to get all that extra icing on top of the cake that you've had for so long. Give them the gold tier. That's that many more people who we can feel comfortable have a equitable, reasonable health care in their lives. They don't have to worry about it. If you're on one of the lower level tiers, not only do you not get as much in tax breaks, but those are the people that I think then the government says, okay, we've got this addendum that you can buy for at a bargain rate to add to your insurance. That's how I think the process should work, because then you're not, oh, and I didn't click start answering, because then you're not obliterating private healthcare that works for so many. So again, if you're going to only achieve the bronze tier, the silver tier, there's got to be something available that the government helps to fund. Paying taxes for stuff like that. I don't know anybody personally that has an issue with paying taxes to help out people who are helping themselves, who are out working and trying to get by. Everyone that I know that has issues with government getting too involved or government giving assistance is to those who just don't want to do anything for themselves. They don't want to be bothered to try and better themselves. They don't want to be bothered to get out there and hustle a little bit and do some work, but they want all the other taxpayers to get together and provide for them. That is, for me, the issue, and for a lot of people that I know, the issue. But as far as that with the healthcare, yeah, it's on paper. You'd be able to see what, because it has to come from a provider as well, a healthcare provider. They would know exactly what their healthcare is that they're providing, and then they get their designation once they know what that is. All right, we're going to move on. Cosmic brownies. You might be asking, what is the issue with cosmic brownies? Why are we pissed off about them? Well, we're not actually pissed off about them. It's one of those things that I tell you guys, my son Braxton, you know how close Braxton is here at Spaz Boys Comedy. He was always called Spaz Kid. It means the world to me. And from the time he was little, and I'm going to show you, for those of you who are watching and not just listening, how many of you know what cosmic brownies are? They're made by Little Debbie. Now, Little Debbie is trying to kill me. She looks innocent. Here's a picture for those of you who are watching. That's Little Debbie, in case any of you don't know who she is. She's been trying to kill me for years, because Little Debbie products, they make these snacks that are low price. They're absolute bargain snacks. There's 6 of these good cosmic brownies in here for $2, and they're delicious. I don't know how she makes things so delicious. There's got to be almost something illicit going on here. How do you make snacks that are this delicious for that price? But Little Debbie is trying to kill me. But she makes cosmic brownies. These brownies with the multicolored chips on them. And my son has loved them from the time he was a little boy. And it got to be such a routine that anytime I was at the store for something, I would pick up another thing of cosmic brownies to have them in the house. And then my older daughter, she had her children, and my grandkids loved cosmic brownies too. And I know most of you that are watching, and I assume a lot of you that are listening are younger. And it just struck me that it's fun to share with you guys the little things that you're going to experience in life that make you happy and that give you just a really cool feeling inside. And it's so silly that if I go through the aisles of the store now, or the market, and I see Little Debbie's Cosmic Brownies, I feel good. I feel forlorn a little bit. I feel a little bit whimsical because my son isn't a little boy anymore. He's going to be 20 years old in just a couple of weeks, and he's in college. But Little Debbie Cosmic Brownies provided a lot of great, they were the center of a lot of great memories of just picking them up because I knew my son was going to want them. And, him having dinner and getting done and saying, guess what? I remembered the Cosmic Brownies, and seeing the smile on his face. And if there's one thing I can tell you that is really cool about getting older, it is having been able to put those type of memories in your back pocket. And so if I got a little piece of advice for those of you who have children, young children, are going to have young children, don't let any little thing slip by. Don't let any little thing slip by your radar of the things you truly appreciate. It doesn't have to be, a monumental event to stick with your memory. It can be something as simple as Cosmic Brownies, because that stuff stays with you for a really, really long time. And I mean the memory, not whatever waste and residue Cosmic Brownies have probably put into our system. But just the word cosmic makes me think that maybe there is something in those ingredients that is not worldly. But for whatever reason, my son loved them. And I was thinking about it during this week, and I wanted to share that with you guys. Never, ever, ever miss the little things, because they're going to be some of the stuff that you really hold on to the most as you get older. So that's my little Cosmic Brownie rah rah. Keep it in the family. Keep it in the family. Piece of advice or encouragement. Okay, now we're gonna. Oh yeah, and Chris says he will in the future always remember you when he sees them. Also, exactly. I even forgot to point that out. I like to think it works both ways. I'm sure it works both ways, and that someday, many years down the line, when I'm not around anymore, hopefully, when my son goes through the aisle, and hell, in all those years, it might even still be that same box of Cosmic Brownies on the shelf. It might not even have been a new one. And how long is Little Debbie going to be little? Isn't she like 50? But anyway, I hope that he goes down the aisle and he sees Cosmic Brownies, and he either both A, picks them up for his kids, and B, has a really warm thought about the old man and how the old man was always thinking of him just by being in the store and by making sure that he picked up Cosmic Brownies. So yeah, Cosmic Brownies passed down for generations. Again, might be the same box. I would imagine there are some preservatives in there that they would probably be just as good to eat after the nuclear holocaust. I can't imagine anything could get to a Cosmic Brownie, but I don't know that for a fact. I didn't do the science. I didn't do the research, but I'm going to go out there on a limb and say it. All right, next topic. We are going to talk about paid leave for all. Right after we take this quick question, we had a new question come up. Going off, and this comes from Pierre Jones. Going off your age, what's your view with our mortality? I've come to terms I'll die one day. I'm 28. Yeah, but my mother, who is 50, is scared of the thought of dying one day. Sorry for the dark question. Don't be sorry. It's a good question. I have found in my life, and everybody's different. And again, I'm not ancient. I'm 58, but I'm older. I have found for me, Pierre, life has started. You start figuring out the circle of life. It's a good thing I can't sing, because if that was even close to being on key, I would get copyright sued by Disney, the most litigious company in America. But I started to notice that there is, how do I want to put this? A certain comfort, actually, in getting to live a life that is at least of natural length. It's so tragic when someone dies young, because it's taken me this long to start seeing that, I've gotten to experience a lot of things in my life. I got to do a lot of things I wanted to do. You guys know I was a professional wrestler for years, and I've enjoyed entertaining people for years, and I got to watch my kids grow up, and I got to have all the great times with my children. I've experienced things with my grandkids, and now I see, as things start winding down, and eventually my time will come, I'm okay with it. I'm not, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm hoping not to die tomorrow, and I'm hoping to have a lot of years left with my kids and my grandkids. But I'm not afraid of it anymore. I used to be. I was intimidated about dying, and as most of you guys know, I'm not a religious person at all. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in a hereafter. But I don't have a fear of it anymore. It is what it is. It's just seems natural to me. So to me, whether you have a belief in God, in which case, if you believe that and you've lived a good life, and this we'll touch on this in a little bit when we talk about Kobe Bryant as well, then you should get some reassurance in that, knowing that when you die, there's something better for you. And if you are like me and you don't believe in a hereafter, and that our existence is just a wildly fortunate series of events that beat the odds that we are even here, hell, enjoy it for all it's worth. And when it's over, say, you know what? This is a good ride, and I won't see you again. But I had a good time hanging out with you while you could. But I think your mom has to just find her own peace with it, Pierre. Just as I did. And for me, it happened naturally. I started seeing how everything was unfolding. I've watched so many people as you get older. The toughest thing about getting older is seeing so many people that are important to you pass away, because your older generations are gone now. Friends are gone. And it's like, yeah, when it's my time, I want to go. And I don't want to outlive my children. I don't want to. The greatest gift of all is to not have to bury any of your own children. So when it's my time, I'm good. Okay, now let's move on to our next topic, and I will go back to questions. Paid leave for all. I'm not going to get into this in great detail. We've taken up a lot of time under the socialism banner itself, but the thing I want to put, because this has been trending again on social media and stuff, and that paid leave for all is basically people that want some more stuff instituted. I won't say free stuff, but they want that people need paid leave from their jobs, whether it's maternity, paternity, whatever the case may be. We need to have it instituted. This is what a lot of people want, mandated federally, that employers must give X amount of paid leave for all employees for their own mental health, whatever the case. Okay, that's all fine and good. And like most things, whether you attach the free label to them or here's a cool benefit, just paid leave, just don't worry about it. You got something big happening in your life, take a week. We'll pay you for it. Okay, here's the problem with that. That's all fine and good. And to the individual, it's going to be great. Just remember, anytime you vote for something like that, anytime you want to institute something like that, you will pay for it. Because if employers are paying employees that are not there for extended periods of time, they're going to have to hire more employees. You say, oh, well, that's a good thing, because now we've also, given another good job to someone else. Okay. That employer has every right to recoup that money they're paying in extra pay, possibly benefits for that employee. How do you think they're going to pay for it? They're going to have to raise the cost of the price, the cost of the goods or the service that they're providing to you, period. It's going to happen. You can put in paid leave. You can mandate however much of it you want per year, however it breaks down. But whatever you give people, wherever you're forcing employers to pay employees that are not there, you will add to the inflation of our economy. That's just simply how it works. And the problem is, so many people look at something like that and go, it's a no-brainer. Of course you should have paid, because they don't realize there's repercussions for everything. People want things to just be free. People want things to just be given as a gesture of goodwill and have no repercussions to it. It doesn't happen that way. If you start forcing employers to pay employees that are not there, it will add to the inflation in our economy. And it has to. Again, if that employer has to pay more for more workers, whatever you're buying from them, whether it's a good or a service, it is going to cost more. And that's how the domino effect begins. And if you're paying more for that, that means the truck driver who delivered the product has to be paid more. It's going to continue to accelerate the inflation within our economy. So by all means, if there's enough people out there that it's worth it, it's like, I don't care if I have to pay X amount percentage more for my groceries, as long as I can get that paid leave, that's fine. You're going to find a lot of people that it's not worth it to them. All I'm saying is, when you support a program like that, when you vote for somebody based on a promise such as that, be aware of what it actually is going to cost you, because that person who wants you to get on board and who wants to get your vote probably isn't going to be real honest about the rather extravagant effect it can have on our entire economy. Okay, let's check one more question. That's all I wanted to talk about that. And this was just Pierre saying that he hopes his mom does come to grips with her own mortality. I think she will. Again, it was a natural process for me. Chris says, passing down diabetes from spaz father to spaz kid, no better thing. Well, see, I've always looked at things like that, and I admit that's not necessarily the best case. My diet sucks. And the funny thing was, when I did go to college, I took journalism and sports medicine. One of the first things we learned in sports medicine, although that knowledge is vastly outdated now, was about dietary habits and stuff. So I know how to eat right. I just choose to eat Little Debbie. Well, not actually Little Debbie. That sounded a little perverse. Little Debbie's products. Little Debbie's just, again, I don't know what Little Debbie's done, but she just, how long, somebody's going to have to look that up for, how long have Little Debbie snacks been out? And she hasn't aged a bit. So obviously she's a demon, but that was evident from her products anyway. Chris says paid leave should be earned. Well, that's now where I worked. That was the case too. You know, we had sick time, you had vacation time, and you earned it over years of employment with the municipality I worked for. And it was factored into, you know, when they factored out what the taxpayers had to pay for our employment, because I worked for a public works department, I worked for a transportation department, that was factored in, that, you know, those were part of your benefits. But right, that it was basically you were earning them by your loyalty and staying on as a member of the company. Okay, the next topic, let's move right along again. Our next topic, guilty pleasures. I want to talk to you guys about guilty pleasures, because it came up the other day in conversation, and I wish I had a better memory so I could tell you guys exactly what the conversation was about. But somebody said something about, oh yeah, that's my guilty pleasure. And it dawned on me that I don't have any. And there's a really simple reason for it, is I don't carry any guilt. Is that wrong? I mean, because I try and think of the things that I find joy in, and some of them are perverse. I guess it's a guilty pleasure that I like Barry Manilow. Should I feel guilty about that? Because he's, you know, his music is totally 70s and kind of nerdy and everything. And as far as music, I was like, remember the song Fireflies? It was like it was just so happy and silly and goofy and just so fabulous, and I love that song. So I don't know, but I don't feel guilty about stuff I should feel guilty about. People say, oh, you know, if you ask the common person, hey, you ever looked at any porn on the internet? No. What? No, that's you have to be pathetic. Listen, you can see my browser history. I'll show you. It's a part of my daily routine. Just something I enjoy. I don't feel guilty about it. I think I'm supposed to. Do you guys have any? I am. Richard says you're just shameless, and I am. And it's funny. I'm being cheated out of having a guilty pleasure because I don't feel guilty about anything. And I've actually been trying to think of something. I've been honestly trying to think of something where one of you guys could ask me a question, and say, hey, Curtis, do you like this? Fill in the blank. And where if I did, I would lie or I would skirt the issue. And I can't think of anything. I mean, there's probably some things that if I did have an interest in, I would, well, I'd probably have, well, some of them would be bad enough I'd have to kick my own ass. But I can't, let's see. Alpha Centauri says, see, now this is the problem with when we record these. Again, it's with our community here at the Patreon. We affectionately call it the Goosh. And again, if you want to come be into the live recordings of the podcast, it's patreon.com/spazvoicecomedy. But this is we have a very cool little community here, and we all get to know each other, and it leads to things like this, where Alpha Centauri says, fake news. What about the times that you ditch your family to watch anime with us, you anime slut, you? Now, he's not incorrect. I will come in and watch anime at the expense of other things, but it's not a guilty pleasure because I don't feel guilty about it. I love my family to death, but listen, entertain yourselves for a goddamn half hour because I need to see if Luffy is going to beat Lucci in a fight. I need to see how goddamn Rainer became the armored Titan in Attack on Titan. I need to look at Sarah's Victoria's ample bosoms as she shoots bitches and rips their throats out because she's a vampire, for those of you who don't know anime. So I don't even feel guilty about it. I have no shame. Shouldn't I have a little bit of shame about something? You know, maybe that's where I am. Richard says, I don't have any guilty pleasures myself. Life is too short to worry about that BS. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I can't even feel guilty about being a 58-year-old anime nerd because, again, for those who are listening, if you could see the streams every day in these streams, I'm wearing a t-shirt with anime on it. That's my wardrobe. That's all I got. If I get dressed up, it's because to get dressed up, I wear a t-shirt of like possibly a slice of life anime rather than a bloody, gory anime with a lot of death and destruction. That's as dressed up as I get. It's everything I wear is anime. I'm addicted. Maybe it's not working out or drinking soda, or maybe jerking off to weird shit, Gigamax says. But yeah, well, weird is, as long as something certainly is legal, and there are certain moral parameters one could cross, of course, that I would find to be very, very troublesome. But if it's content of two consenting adults doing whatever two consenting adults want to do, I ain't gonna feel guilty about any of it. So that's what it is. Someday I want to find that place where I have, I don't know, a little bit. What's the word I want, guys? A little bit of guilt. Guilt's not what I'm looking for. Whatever it is I like, and if you guys want to hear about it, I'm happy to tell you. I don't have that filter, I guess. All right, now we're again, this has been a really fun podcast. We got one last thing I want to talk about, and let me go. We have one question backed up. Let me go to this question, and it's something hopefully you guys can hang on a bit. I really wanted to discuss with you. Pierre asks again, going with the diet, what's it like in the USA with the whole vegan agenda? It's not bad here in the UK. We've got the crazy group Extinction Rebellion. I'm all for people doing and eating what they want, but don't push your views on me. Well, that's what you get a lot of over here too. And I've always said, Pierre, and again, I fully acquiesce that I'm making a generalization here, but two of the groups that can be the most obnoxious here, and I'm a member of one of them, are vegans. I am not a member of that group. I'll go eat it. I live in the country. I'll go across the street to a farm and I'll eat a cow raw. I'm clearly the antithesis of veganism. But the other one is atheists, because fellow atheists can be really obnoxious douches and an unfortunate amount of the time, because for some reason, a lot of people who are atheists seem to think that it makes them superior intellectually or something. I never got that. It's just a different belief system. I hope I'm wrong. It's one of those few things in life that I have a stance on, and I hope I would love to be wrong about this. I would like there to be something better, even if it's not for me, because if there is that next level, I'm not going to the paradise. I don't even mind going to hell because I plan on taking over. I'm going to fight. I want to run it. But the people that are important to me, the people I love, most all of them are religious people. So I would think it was great if there's something better for them on the other side. But vegans tend to be the same thing. It's like there are so many vegans that have this pompous, arrogant, superiority complex about I only put things that are intended to go into my body. I don't eat the flesh of other animals. Well, good for you, Bucky. I do eat the flesh of other animals. Is it going to kill me early? Probably. With the amount of red meat I eat, I can't. If it doesn't kill me early, I'll be disappointed because everything they said about it was wrong. Then because I gorge myself on red meat. That's how I choose to live my life. If you think it's cruel for me to eat animals, I just thought about it. I don't give a shit. You go do your own thing. You do your veganism thing. I don't really want to hear about it. If it comes up in conversation, you go, oh, yeah, well, I can't have that because I'm vegan, and you get something else, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. You can eat whatever you want. But if you want to pontificate about why you're vegan, or you want to seem superior or demean others because you're vegan, for any of you who might be listening with the more sensitive sensibilities, you might want to plug your ears because those persons can go fuck themselves vigorously. And there's a lot of them out there. So yeah, a lot of them get pushy. But again, that's making a generality. I have a nephew who's a vegan, and it's just part of who he is. It's just how he prefers to run his life. It's how he prefers his diet. He doesn't push on anybody else, has a sense of humor about it. So it's not everybody, but there's a number of people along those lines. And yes, it gets annoying. Minu-sama says, bring me a live cow. I'll carve off what I want and ride the rest home. That boy. There, now we're talking. You see that? That's what I'm saying. Gigamax says, not sure why atheists are so high in my idea. Let's be fair, it's not all atheists, but yes, a lot of them. Now they know as much as the religious. No one knows what really goes on. We know nothing about the universe we live in. Not in a deeper sense, we don't know. That's for sure. And that's where I am. It's like I buy into the scientific theory of why we're all here. And I think it was just a wonderfully cosmic. For those of you who are listening, I held up the cosmic brownies again to the camera because I use visual aids. And no, visual aids is not a disease you get in your eyes. Don't be wise asses. But I think that we are just a series of cosmic events that beat every odd available, and we came to be. And so that's cool. Hey, I got this consciousness. Woohoo, good for me. Because we shouldn't have. The odds against it were astronomical. The odds against it were cosmic. I'm going to get mileage out of it. I paid $1. Brax, my son, is not even here right now. He's at college. So I bought this cosmic brownies, and I'm not even a big fan. If I'm buying Little Debbie, I'm buying the Swiss cake rolls. So I paid $2 for this visual assistance. I'm going to use it every goddamn chance I get. Okay. And this is the final thing I want to talk about today. Because obviously it's been the topic of conversation since a few days ago when it happened. And we all know that Kobe Bryant, legendary NBA star of the Lakers, passed away in a helicopter crash. His daughter was on board with him. A total of 9 people were on the helicopter, and they all died. And obviously it goes without saying that it's sad. And no matter what you thought about Kobe, I don't think anybody certainly wishes that on anyone, and the pain to his family and everyone else. And I want to put right out there, right up from the front, I'm talking about Kobe because he was an icon. He was somebody that we all knew. And I'm going to tell you why that really hits home with me. I'm not ignoring, I'm not being insensitive to the others. It's tragic what happened to everybody. It's tragic to whenever lives are cut short in such an unexpected and violent manner. But the reason I'm talking about Kobe specifically is he was someone that we all knew, that everyone knew, and a lot of people had a real connection with him. Now, for me, Kobe never played for one of my favorite teams. I loved watching him play ball, but it wasn't someone. If someone asked me, okay, who are your NBA idols? Kobe was not one of them. But even you just feel different when somebody you've watched for so many years, and he could do something that I loved sports from the time I was little. Baseball was my number one. Being on the shorter side, round white kid, I wasn't particularly skilled at basketball, but I played, and it was fun to watch. It's fun to watch somebody like Kobe who could do the things that I could only dream of doing. That's what's so cool about seeing iconic sport people in sports or in music, people playing music or artists. I mean, even the things I like to watch, the anime and the animations, people that can create that kind of stuff amaze me. And the reason it hit really hard for me too with Kobe and the unexpected passing was something that happened in my own childhood. When I was a little kid, I first discovered baseball and became a fan at like 5 years old. Loved the Pittsburgh Pirates. I loved the Pirates for one reason and one reason only: Roberto Clemente. He was just the greatest baseball player I'd ever seen. And man, I was such a nerd for him. And this is going back to the day when I didn't get to see him play much. He had one game, maybe two in a week that would be on TV. It was Saturday afternoons. Sometimes Monday nights you'd get a game. So the only times I got to see him play were the rare occasions the Pirates would be featured in one of those games. But every day I would get the newspaper before I went to school and look at the box score to see what Clemente had done the night before. And I would see, okay, Clemente was 1 for 4. And immediately in my head, I could tell you what his new batting average was by factoring that 1 for 4 in. That's how geeked out I was. And this is coming from a kid who was probably getting a D in math otherwise because I didn't care. But when it was important, I could do the math. I remember getting to go to Shea Stadium, the old Shea Stadium where the Mets used to play, for a doubleheader back when they had doubleheaders. My dad took me down there, and it was rare for us to get to do anything like that. My family didn't have much money. That's for a whole other story for another time. But I got to see Clemente play, and it was like, he was my hero. He was my initial hero. I have 4 to 5 people that I have followed that I consider real heroes to me, and he was the first one. And for those of you who don't know, on New Year's Eve, 1972, going into 73, he died in a plane crash. His plane was actually carrying supplies and relief for earthquake victims in, I believe, Nicaragua. And I remember it didn't feel, when he passed, it didn't feel like it was somebody detached from me. It felt like a part of me died too. It was really difficult to deal with. I mean, I was 11. I cried a lot. And now I think all the people that Kobe has affected and all the people that were huge Kobe Bryant fans, and it's so sad for his family and those, that he knew personally, but it's also so sad for those literally millions of people that grew up idolizing him or idolized him as adults. And, you lived vicariously through him. You got to, just as I did with Clemente, you could sit there at home on your TV and go, God damn, did you see what Kobe did last night? And you got to live all that, and it just got snatched away from you. It just got ripped away by a helicopter falling out of the sky, the same way my childhood icon got ripped away by an airplane falling into the ocean. And so I understand how they feel. And so when I see people on social media, and of course, social media is not known for its sensitivity, and I've seen people getting bitched out for, oh, you're carrying, somebody will say, I've been in tears all day over Kobe. And people say, you didn't even know him. You're being a drama queen. You're being melodramatic. No, it hurts. I mean, it really does. It stays with you. And this was, again, Clemente was my hero. And so we were talking about it, some friends of mine and I, on social media, as a matter of fact, in private messaging. But And I was telling him this story, and that's the one friend of mine who is a huge Lakers fan. He said, well, how long does it take you to get over it to where you don't feel that, that like that piece is missing? And like I told him, when it happens, I'll let you know, because so far it's only been like 47 years. It hasn't happened yet. So it's sad. I mean, it's sad when anybody dies unexpectedly, when anybody dies too young. And that was certainly the case here. But it did make me think, and it's interesting that we got into this conversation we did earlier. This is one of those cases where, as much as I don't believe in an afterlife and all the things that go along with it, I really, really genuinely hope I'm wrong. I hope there is something better out there. And I hope all 9 people that were on that helicopter, I hope they're all getting to experience something really, really cool right now. I'd like to think that's the case. I'd like to think that they're experiencing it. So many others before them are experiencing it. And maybe they're looking at us right now and saying, you know what? It's okay to be sad, but don't let it get you down, because this place is pretty cool. I hope that's happening. This is one of those rare occasions where I really hope I'm wrong about these eventualities. And all I wanted to say about this is, for any of you who it really hit hard because he was such an icon and it's made you feel bad and made you feel like a little something inside you is missing, I get it. I completely understand how you feel. And any of the detractors who say you can't feel that kind of loss because you didn't know him personally, they're full of shit. Don't pay any attention to them. And hopefully you're able to come to terms with it the way I had to as well. Okay, we're just about to wrap it up. Exactly. Now, see, everybody comes in, and this is what I mean. Everybody can identify. Menu Sama says, I think it's like how I felt when Robin Williams died. That was one that hit me hard too. One of my all-time favorite actors, and one of the probably him and Richard Pryor were probably the 2 biggest reasons I got into stand-up comedy. Robin Williams and Richard Pryor. Not a basketball fan. Omega Project says, but I know what you mean when Stan Lee passed. See, everybody has that, and it does. It gets to you. It really, you may have never met them, but it really, really gets to you. Let's see what else we have here. Gigamax says, as an outsider who isn't super into the world of basketball, I think it's a bit strange how social media reacts. A lot of people put up fake ass posts about how much they've affected them as if they're a family. So these people I know don't give a shit about basketball, but uses death as a social media crap. Well, that comes back to the scummy nature of social media. We know that's going to exist. It's kind of fucked up. People asked me if I was sad, and I said no, and they were surprised. I'm not going to fake my sadness, because that's way worse than not being sad, in my opinion. Not disrespecting anyone who really felt the connection to them, just pointing out something. And that's true. I don't doubt that at all. Listen, we know that social media is the ultimate hangout for people who are looking for any type of sympathy or looking for attention of any sort. So yes, that goes on. But then the other side of that is too, just what you said at the end there. There are people who legitimately feel like something has been ripped away from them, and it hurts a lot. But yes, there are people who will try and take advantage of. There are people on social media who will try and get sympathy for anything as long as they can get themselves a little bit of attention. Okay, we have one last question, and that'll be it for today. Chris says, what are your thoughts on the media milking as much as they can about celebrity deaths? I've said in the comments already, I think it's a good idea they get attention, but I think the media takes it quite a few steps too far a lot of the time. Do they milk it? Yeah, they do, Chris. The media will, whatever is going to generate the most amount of clicks is what they're going to run with. And again, just from what I was just talking about with Kobe Bryant being an icon to so many, doing your Kobe Bryant reflections, doing your Kobe Bryant stories is going to result in clicks. But the other side of that too is, I'm sure there are plenty of people in the media who really do feel strongly affected, especially in the sports media world, because of, and a lot of them probably had opportunities to meet him, and even if they didn't, it just, they have that same effect. So it's what they feel like writing about. So there is a dividing line there. Do I think they over sensationalize it? Yes. Do I think a lot of it is legitimate though? Yes, absolutely. And I think a lot of people want to read as much as they can about him and want to enjoy reliving the memories of Kobe through those articles. But Will they over sensationalize it? Of course. I don't think there's anything can be done about it. Certainly nothing, they're not doing anything illegal. They're trying to generate as many clicks as they can. I guess it's just up to us in reading the articles or listening to the broadcast to determine who is trying to leverage it for a little extra pop and who is genuine. But it's going to happen. Unfortunately, anything like that, it's always going to happen because, again, it's good for clicks. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us in this podcast. Hope you had a good time listening, watching, whatever the case may be. Again, if you want to be part of the podcast recordings, it's over at our Patreon. It's patreon.com/SpazBoysComedy. Come on in and enjoy. I always give you guys, I schedule these at least a day in advance. I schedule them at different times of the day too, because we have an international audience to try and fit into different people's schedules so you can become part of the actual broadcast itself. Hope you had a good time with us. I know I did. I had a really good time talking about all this. The comment section of wherever you're experiencing this, if it has a comment section, whether it's at YouTube, whether it's at your favorite podcast outlet, please hit the comment section and let me know what you think of what was discussed. You can, again, our YouTube channel, if you search YouTube for Spaz Boys Comedy, you'll find it. You can always go in there. All of these go up at Spaz Boys Comedy, so you can make your comments in there. Guys, thanks again for hanging out with me, and I'll be seeing you again real soon.